The Bluetooth connected at 2:14 p.m. I know the exact time because my laptop clock was visible in the corner of my screen and because the specific chime of the car audio system connecting to my phone came through my office headphones with the particular clarity of a sound arriving in a quiet room. And my office was quiet that Tuesday afternoon, the particular productive quiet of a woman who has sent the last email of a long morning and who is reviewing documents before the 3 o'clock meeting. My name is Serafina. I am 36 years old. My husband Darian had borrowed my phone that morning because his was dead and he needed GPS for an errand he described as brief. He had connected it to his car's Bluetooth and driven away, and I had not thought about the connection for 4 hours because 4 hours is enough time to build a complete new mental landscape around a forgotten detail. He had apparently also forgotten about the connection. Because at 2:14 p.m., 3 blocks from wherever his errand had taken him, he made a call. I heard it through my headphones. Not because I had been listening. Because the Bluetooth routed the call audio to my phone as the connected device, and because my phone's audio was running through my office headphones, and because I was wearing my office headphones, and because I did not immediately understand what I was hearing. The call connected. A voice answered. Not a professional voice, the specific warm, familiar voice of someone answering a call from a person they are expecting, and whose expecting has a particular quality of anticipation. I set down my pen. I listened. I will tell you what I heard in the order I heard it because the order matters. Because the specific sequence of what arrived through the headphones across the following 11 minutes was the particular kind of information that needs to be received in order, or it does not make sense. And when it makes sense, it makes a very specific kind of sense that reorganizes everything. I listened for 11 minutes. I did not make a sound. At 2:25 p.m. the call ended. I took off the headphones. I sat in my office chair. I made 3 decisions in the following 4 minutes, and I made them in the specific careful order of a financial attorney who has spent 11 years understanding that the most consequential moves are the ones made with complete information rather than from the middle of the feeling that the information produces. The 11 minutes contained the following. My husband and a woman whose name I learned was Renata discussing a meeting they had scheduled for Thursday evening. The meeting was described in terms that left no interpretive ambiguity. I am a financial attorney and I deal in language daily, and the language of the 11 minutes was not language that required interpretation. It also contained a financial conversation. This is the part that matters for the story I am telling, not the personal betrayal, which was real and which I will not minimize, but the financial dimension of what the 11 minutes revealed. Because the financial dimension is what the 3 decisions I made in the 4 minutes after were about. My husband Darian was a residential real estate developer. He had been one for 9 years. His business operated through a development company whose accounts I had, at various points in our 6-year marriage, been involved with in the specific way that financial attorneys become involved in their spouses' businesses, reviewing contracts, providing professional guidance, co-signing documents when co-signature was required. My name was on 3 business documents. I had co-signed those documents in years 2, 3, and 4 of our marriage. What I heard in the 11 minutes was a conversation about those documents. Specifically, Darian telling Renata that a significant refinancing he had been negotiating, a refinancing that, if successful, would restructure the company's debt in a way that reduced the personal liability exposure of the principals, was going through in 2 weeks. He described the refinancing. He described who would benefit from it. He did not mention my name. He mentioned that once the refinancing was complete there would be a restructuring conversation. He described what the restructuring would mean for Renata's investment in the company. He described what it would mean for his ownership position. He did not mention me. I am the co-signatory on 3 documents that the refinancing was going to affect. I had not been told about the refinancing. I had not been told about Renata's investment in the company. I had not been consulted about any of this. At 2:25 p.m., I took off my headphones. My savings were intact. My professional knowledge was complete. My phone was still connected to his car. I disconnected it. Then I picked up my desk phone. I called my colleague Warren. Warren Osei was 47 years old, Ghanaian American, and had been practicing corporate and matrimonial financial law for 21 years with the particular sharp-edged precision of someone who had built his practice on the specific understanding that financial decisions made in marriage have legal dimensions that most people do not consider until those dimensions have already cost them something. He had been my colleague and then my mentor and then my professional partner for 6 years. He answered on the first ring. "Serafina," he said. "I need your professional help," I said. "Not as a colleague. As my attorney." A brief pause. "Tell me," he said. I told him what I had heard. Not the personal dimension first, the financial one. The refinancing. The restructuring. The 3 documents I had co-signed. The absence of my name from the conversation about what the refinancing would produce. He listened with the complete focused attention of 21 years of practice, receiving information that has a specific legal shape. When I finished, he said, "You are a co-signatory on 3 business documents related to this company." "Yes," I said. "And a refinancing of the company's debt structure is proceeding without your knowledge or consultation." "Yes," I said. "Serafina," he said. "Yes," I said. As a co-signatory, depending on the specific language of the documents you signed, you may have both rights and obligations in relation to any restructuring of the company's debt." "Yes," I said. "Which means that a refinancing that proceeds without your knowledge and that affects documents bearing your signature is a situation with legal implications that run in both directions." "Yes," I said. "I need to see the 3 documents," he said. "I have copies," I said. "I have kept copies of every document I have signed in relation to his business since year 1 of our marriage." A pause. "Of course you have," he said. "You're a financial attorney." "Yes," I said. "Bring them this afternoon," he said. "I'll be there at 4, I said. "Serafina," he said. "Yes," I said. "The personal dimension," he said. "Are you all right?" "I am in the specific state of a woman who has received very clear information and who is focused on what the information requires," I said. "Yes," he said. "That's you." "I'll be there at 4, I said. The documents were in a fire-safe box in my home office. I had started the box in year 1 of the marriage with the particular professional reflex of a financial attorney who understood that the documentation of a marriage's financial arrangements is not pessimism. It is the specific recognition that clarity is always more useful than assumption and that the time to create clear documentation is before it is needed. The box contained, in addition to the 3 business documents, copies of our joint account statements going back 6 years. Copies of the mortgage documents for the home we shared. Copies of every financial agreement we had made together, documented with the specific patient thoroughness of someone who understood that the paper record of financial decisions is the only record that holds up when memories diverge. I had also, in month 14 of our marriage, begun keeping a log. Not a diary, a log. The specific professional instrument of someone who works with financial documents and who understands that a contemporaneous record of observations and events is the most defensible form of documentation available. The log contained, among other things, dates and summaries of conversations about the business that Darian had shared with me. Dates of documents I had been asked to review or sign. Dates of transactions I had been told about. It also contained dates of things that had not been communicated to me that I had later discovered had occurred. The log did not contain anything about Renata's investment in the company, because I had not known about it. The absence of an entry is itself an entry. I put the documents and the log in a portfolio. I drove to Warren's office. He reviewed everything for 90 minutes. When he looked up, he had the particular expression of an attorney who has reviewed documentation that tells a clear story and who is now going to tell the client what the story means. "The refinancing," he said, "as you described it, restructuring the company's debt in a way that reduces personal liability exposure of the principals, would, if it proceeds without your knowledge and consent as a co-signatory, potentially release obligations that your signature helped create without releasing you from the residual liability that your signature carries." "In plain language," I said. "In plain language," he said, "they benefit from the refinancing. You remain exposed." I looked at the portfolio. "What do I do?" I said. "We send a letter," he said. I called Adiz at 7 p.m. Adiz Okafor was 38 years old, Nigerian American, and had been my closest friend since we were both 24 and starting our legal careers at the same firm and discovering that we were each other's specific kind of necessary. She had been watching my marriage for 6 years with the particular watchful warmth of a friend who had seen certain things and who had said her concerns once and had then, when I had continued in the marriage, stood behind the decision without repeating the concerns. She had said them once. She had been right about several of them. She answered on the first ring. "I'm coming over," she said. Before I spoke. "How did you know?" I said. "Because you never call at 7 unless something has happened," she said. "And because I know that voice." She arrived at 7:40 with food, the specific action of a friend who understands that difficult conversations are held better by people who are not also hungry. I told her everything. The Bluetooth. The 11 minutes. Warren. The documents. The letter. She listened through the food. When I finished, she said, "What is the letter going to say?" "It is going to notify all parties to the refinancing, including Darian's legal counsel and the refinancing institution, that I am a named co-signatory on the documents in question, and that any restructuring affecting those documents requires my knowledge, consultation, and consent. And if they proceed without it," she said. "Warren is of the view that we have grounds to challenge the refinancing on the basis of my co-signatory rights," I said. She was quiet. "Serafina," she said. "Yes," I said. "He made a phone call in his car," she said. "Yes," I said. "On your phone," she said. "He borrowed it this morning," I said. "And he forgot the Bluetooth was connected," she said. "Yes," I said. She looked at me. "He spent 6 years married to a financial attorney," she said, "and he forgot about the Bluetooth." "Yes," I said. "That," she said, "is the most expensive forgotten detail in recent history." I looked at my food. "The personal part," she said. "Renata." "Yes," I said. "When do you want to talk about that?" she said. "After the letter goes," I said. "All right," she said. She refilled my glass. We sat together in the particular steady warmth of 14 years of friendship, holding an evening that required something to hold it. Darian came home at 9:15 p.m. He came in with the particular quality of a man who has been where he has been and who carries the specific careful composure of someone managing information. The quality of a person who has a private life that requires the daily work of keeping it separate from the visible one. I was in the sitting room. He came in. He looked at me. Something in my quality communicated something to him, not what I knew, but that something had changed in the atmosphere of the house since morning. "How was your afternoon?" he said. "Productive," I said. He sat across from me. "How was yours?" I said. "Fine," he said. "Ran some errands. Met with the contractor." "The contractor," I said. "Yes," he said. "And the refinancing," I said. The room changed. Not dramatically, the specific atmospheric change of a room in which a word has been said that was not supposed to be said, and that has reorganized the distribution of information between the people in it. He looked at me. "What?" he said. "The refinancing," I said. "The one that's proceeding in 2 weeks. The one that restructures the company's debt. The one that I was not told about." He was very still. "Serafina. I am a co-signatory on 3 company documents," I said. "I have been a co-signatory on those documents for between 2 and 4 years. I have a right to be informed of and consulted about any restructuring that affects those documents. I was not informed. I was not consulted." "How do you know about the refinancing?" he said. "That's not the relevant question," I said. "Serafina. The relevant question," I said, "is why the co-signatory on your business documents was not in any conversation about a significant restructuring of those documents." He looked at his hands. "I was going to tell you," he said. "When?" I said. "After it was finalized," he said. "After it was finalized," I said. "Yes," he said. "So after the restructuring that you describe as reducing the personal liability exposure of the principals was complete," I said, "you were going to tell me, the co-signatory, who was not a principal in the restructuring conversation, what had been decided." He was quiet. "My attorney has already been in contact," I said. Warren's letter went to 4 recipients on Wednesday morning. Darian's personal attorney, the law firm representing the refinancing institution, the company's corporate counsel, and Darian himself. Because the letter needed to be formally received by all parties and because Darian was both a party to the refinancing and my husband, and the letter addressed both of those facts with the particular precise language of a document that understands the complexity of the situation it is describing. The letter described my co-signatory position. It described my rights as a co-signatory. It described the specific legal concern that a restructuring affecting documents bearing my signature was proceeding without my knowledge or consent. It requested that all proceedings related to the refinancing be paused pending a formal review of my co-signatory rights and obligations in relation to the restructuring. The refinancing was paused on Wednesday afternoon. Darian called me at 3:17 p.m. I answered. "The refinancing has been paused," he said. His voice had the particular quality of a man who has received information from several directions simultaneously and who is in the process of understanding that the situation has moved outside the frame he had placed it in. "Yes," I said. "Serafina," he said. "Yes," I said. "We need to talk," he said. "Not about the business. About everything." "Yes," I said. "Tonight," he said. "Tonight is not possible," I said. "I have a meeting with Warren at 5, and I will not be available for a personal conversation tonight." "When?" he said. "When I have completed the professional portion of this situation," I said. "The personal portion requires a separate conversation, and I am not prepared to have both simultaneously." "The professional portion is going to cost," he said. "Darian," I said. "The professional portion is going to cost whatever it costs to correctly address the legal implications of a refinancing that proceeded without the knowledge or consent of a co-signatory. That cost is a consequence of the decision not to include me. I did not make that decision." He was quiet. "I know," he said. "I'll be in touch through Warren," I said. I ended the call. I sat at my desk. Outside the window, the Wednesday afternoon was doing what Wednesday afternoons do. I picked up the document I had been reviewing when the Bluetooth connected the previous afternoon. I finished reviewing it. The work was still there. The work was always still there. The personal conversation happened on Saturday. Not in the house. I had asked Warren to recommend a neutral space, and he had suggested his firm's conference room, which had the particular functional dignity of a professional space that carries no emotional associations for either party and that communicates, by its nature, that what is happening in it is being addressed with the seriousness it requires. I brought my own attorney. Darian brought his. The professional and personal conversations had to happen in the same room because they were not actually separable. The financial implications of the marriage and the personal facts of the marriage were part of the same situation, and addressing one without the other produced incomplete answers. His attorney opened with the refinancing. Warren addressed the refinancing from my position. The legal conversation took 40 minutes. The conclusion of the legal conversation was this: my co-signatory rights would be formally addressed through a specific process that Warren and Darian's attorney had agreed to outline. The refinancing would not proceed until my position was fully accounted for. The accounting would include a review of my liability exposure and a formal decision about how that exposure was addressed as part of the restructuring. This was what Warren had said the letter would produce. The letter had produced it. After the legal conversation, the attorneys stepped out. Darian and I sat across from each other in the conference room. He looked the way a man looks when he has spent 4 days inside the specific consequence of a forgotten Bluetooth connection and who has been carrying the weight of what the 4 days have produced. "Renata," he said. "Yes," I said. "I'm sorry," he said. Not elaborately. The specific plain delivery of 2 words from a man who has arrived at them after 4 days and who is not performing the apology but stating it. "I know," I said. "The business," he said. "Separate conversation," I said. "Warren handles that." "And us," he said. I looked at the conference room table. "That is the question that requires the most honest answer I am capable of giving," I said. "And I am not ready to give it today." "When?" he said. "When I know it," I said. He nodded. That was the most honest exchange we had in 4 years of the thing being wrong. The months after Saturday revealed things in the specific incremental way that significant situations reveal themselves, not all at once, not dramatically, but in the particular sequential exposure of information that becomes visible as the formal processes do their work. Warren's review of my co-signatory position revealed that the refinancing, as originally structured, would have reduced Darian's personal liability on 2 of the 3 documents to which I was a co-signatory, while leaving my co-signatory liability unchanged. In plain language, the refinancing would have protected him from the documents he had asked me to sign without protecting me from the same documents. This was not how co-signatory relationships are supposed to work. This was, Warren said with the particular dry precision of 21 years of practice, a situation that he had seen before and that he had developed specific language for describing to judges. The restructured refinancing, the version that proceeded after the letter and the legal conversation, addressed my co-signatory position fully. The specific terms required the protection of my liability position as a condition of the refinancing proceeding. Darian signed the revised terms. He signed them because not signing them was a more expensive outcome than signing them. He signed them because Warren's letter had been received by institutions that understood what the letter said and who were not interested in a refinancing that did not properly account for all co-signatory positions. He signed them because the Bluetooth had been connected. Renata's investment in the company also became visible during the review, not through any action I took, but because the review process required a full disclosure of the company's investor relationships and because full disclosure is what it says. The disclosure produced a conversation about the company's capital structure that had not previously been possible because I had not previously known the full capital structure. That conversation produced additional outcomes. I will not describe those outcomes in detail because some of the details belong to the legal process and not to me to share publicly. What I will say is that by month 6 of the process, my co-signatory liability had been formally addressed, my financial position had been protected, and I had a clear and complete picture of the company's finances that I had not had the morning the Bluetooth connected. The clear picture was what I had needed. The Bluetooth provided it. Here is what I kept from a Bluetooth connection at 2:14 p.m. and 11 minutes and 4 decisions and everything that followed. I kept the documentation practice, the fire-safe box, the log, the copies of every document, the contemporaneous records of financial conversations. These things existed because I am a financial attorney and because the professional discipline of my work had become the personal discipline of my life and because I had never distinguished between the care I brought to my clients' financial situations and the care I brought to my own. The documentation did not prevent what happened. It shaped how I was able to respond to what happened. That distinction is worth everything. I kept Warren. He answered on the first ring. He reviewed the documents for 90 minutes. He sent the letter on Wednesday morning. He was in the conference room on Saturday. He addressed 21 years of practice to a situation that deserved every year of it. I have referred clients to Warren for 6 years. I will refer clients to him for the rest of my career. He is the specific kind of professional who makes the difference between a situation being managed correctly and a situation producing damage that did not need to occur. I kept Adi's presence. She arrived at 7:40 with food. She sat with me through the evening. She asked the right questions in the right order, the professional questions first and the personal questions after, which is the correct sequence because the professional decisions need to be made clearly before the personal ones can be made honestly. She refilled my glass. She stayed until I had eaten everything she brought. This is what 14 years of friendship looks like when it is tested. I kept the Bluetooth lesson. Not as a clever story, as a professional reminder. The ordinary technologies of our daily lives create connections we forget about. Every device connected to every other device is a potential channel for information we did not intend to transmit. I have counseled clients on this since. Know what is connected to what. Know what can be heard. Know what is being recorded. The most expensive mistake of my husband's life cost $400 for the car audio system upgrade and 11 minutes of forgetting it was on. I am 36 years old. The Bluetooth connected at 2:14 p.m. I listened for 11 minutes. I called Warren at 4. I kept my financial position. I got the complete picture. The complete picture was what I had always needed. It arrived the way truths sometimes arrive. Through a forgotten connection. At exactly the right moment. If this story reached something in you, if you have ever received the truth through a channel that was not supposed to deliver it and had to decide what to do with what you heard, I want to hear about it in the comments. What arrived through the unexpected connection? Stories like this one stay alive because people carry them forward. Share this with someone who needs it today. And if you would like more stories told honestly, the way things worth keeping deserve to be told, subscribe. We will be here. The end.